leverage the web to make the most of the opportunities that are out there to help our clients. It's an interesting web-based application that is starting to get well, not starting to, has gained traction here in the US, and there's certainly a dominant player around the rest of the English-speaking world. And I think that Chris and I have met with Xero many times, and they're ready for prime time, and they've got a web-based product that makes accounting a completely different process. I won't say pain-free, but it's an incredibly smooth and streamlined process that your clients will react positively to, and I think you will also see the benefits of it almost immediately. As the entrepreneur, if you will, becomes a little bit more business savvy, they're going to be looking at alternatives to QuickBooks, because QuickBooks is a fairly old software, and while it does come out and get updated each time, it still is quite legacy based in terms of the technology that it's using. So we want to be able to speak intelligently about other alternatives that are out there. And we've got a number of firms that are moving on to Xero. They're not moving all their clients, although some are. Some see this and just jump on board straight away. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that you can talk intelligently about Xero and web-based accounting packages, just so you are always cutting edge, so that you are always advising your clients on what the best alternatives out there are. Bit of housekeeping before I do hand over to Spencer. A couple of questions about the CPE. If you've signed up for the webinar through GoToMeeting, and you will get CPE for all the webinars that you've attended, and I've got to catch up and to get on board with those. Anyone that's participating in the webinar that is not registered through GoToMeeting, you have to sign up for the survey response, which comes out about an hour after the webinar. So keep an eye out for that link, but it's also in the iShape group, which I'll go and show everybody after this presentation today. So Spencer, I will hand over to you and take it away.
Thank you, Damien, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Indeed, we're going to be talking about the modern practice, and apologies for that there. And as we have this discussion, we'll make some references to our software. If we have some time, I'll take a quick jump in just to kind of contextualize what we're talking about. But most importantly, we want to talk about leveraging technology to provide a higher level of service to our clients, with the end goal being that the clients are going to be more successful and the accountant is going to be more profitable. But before we go too much farther into this, the question that naturally arises is, what is Xero? We are a cloud-based software-as-a-service accounting package for small businesses and their advisors. And Xero came into being because our two founders, an entrepreneur and an accountant, for most of the early 2000s, worked together around several different ventures that they together built up and sold. And they found that the accounting problem, so to speak, was perhaps the principal pain point that they encountered. What it really consisted of, or boiled down to, was the fact that the data in the accounting system was usually relegated to one person's possession. Either the small business owner had it or the accountant had it. And there was never really one single coherent set of data that they were able to work around. And the entrepreneur, he wanted the higher value services, the consultative advisory service from his accountant, but the accountant couldn't totally deliver it due to the struggles that they often had around data, around simply getting visibility into what the other party was doing. So as they moved into their next venture, they realized that this pain that they had encountered was universal. It was something that pretty much every small business owner and every accountant had faced. And so what they set about doing was taking a traditional accounting package, tearing it down to its component parts, and then building it from the ground up for the web. So, you know, Xero is going to perform bank reconciliation, will handle AR and AP, fixed assets, expense claims, all the traditional things that you would expect of your general ledger system. But we're able to do it in a much different way, and we're able to add a couple of benefits that aren't present in the typical legacy environments. And while this can be kind of a confusing diagram, what I would like to draw your attention to is the customer right here. And basically what happens is when you're a customer, and by that I mean you could be a small business owner or a Xero accounting partner, and when you work inside of Xero, you work kind of at the intersection of a whole variety of web services. And so what that allows us to do is we can take things that people are already doing through the World Wide Web, foreign exchange calculations, 1099 filing, things like that, and we can bring that into our application without having to reinvent the wheel. We can simply make that service, be it an integration with one of our API partners, another piece of software, the banking integrations that we have that power our bank feeds, whatever it is, we can take services that are already out there in the web and we can deliver that to the customer as one unified experience. Founders knew that this wasn't a problem that was merely, relegated to a couple of guys in New Zealand. This was a problem that people around the world were experiencing. And so as our accounting partner community has grown, the geographic dispersion of the Xero user base has really gone pretty much everywhere that English is spoken and internet connections exist. As you can see, we're used in over 100+ countries, but this also speaks to the fact that our accounting partners, as they start using Xero to deliver these higher value services, their clients have more opportunities presented to them. Their clients have opportunities to conduct business in new markets, to expand, to set up foreign operations, and the accounting partner who has helped them from the get-go is able to now also help them in the next phase of their business's growth. And the other side of this growth has just been the sheer numbers. And as you can see, in the first 5 years of our existence, we added 50,000 small business customers. We measure simply the number of businesses that are running on Xero. And in the last, a little over 10, 11 months, we've added over 60,000. Now, that speaks to two different points. First off, that business owners and business users are indeed looking for newer and better tools to handle their basic needs. But that only gets us so far. It's the work that our accounting partners do through the platform and the fact that they're able to provide higher value services to their clients that helps drive new clients to those accounting partners and also compels the accounting partner to start spreading Xero across their existing book of business. When you see the efficiency that you have within the engagements with your Xero customers and then put that next to what you're able to do with your clients that are running on the legacy packages, it really becomes self-evident that you could gain a lot more in terms of the value of the client relationship and the longevity of it, and also you have the opportunity to simply be more profitable within that engagement. And when we look at the modern practice, we're not just talking about, it's not simply limited to the type of service that we deliver to our clients. It's much more holistic. It seeps and continues into everything that the practice does, be it the outbound marketing or how we work internally. And so I always like to say that really the modern practice, and as we work in the Xero partner community, we have three goals. It's efficiency, collaboration, and profitability. And we should be leveraging the tool to, first off, make us more efficient, get us away from having to concentrate so much on transaction level concerns, allow us then to become more collaborative with our clients, and as we operationalize, we can then become more profitable within each engagement. And so let's take a step back and think, about kind of the infrastructure that a typical accounting practices is going to run on. And more or less, you're going to have your email, the website, sales and marketing tools, the practice management software, the document management, and your core general ledger. And in the traditional environment, you're talking about investments in servers, IT staff, software licenses, maintenance, support, renewals, things that can really add up, not just in terms of potential 5 figures in upfront costs, but quite a bit in ongoing costs as well. And we could see that this would maybe be running the Exchange server, paying the private website developer, along with maybe deploying something like the Dynamics, along with a big, heavy practice management piece of software, perhaps from one of the big legacy vendors. Doing your document management through something like your own hosted or your own server, and then additionally having your accounting running through all sorts of disparate versions and editions of QuickBooks and Peachtree and a variety of other platforms. Yet in a cloud environment, we can all of a sudden move to a subscription type of basis where we can leverage Google Apps or Office 365, use an inexpensive but very professional-looking website platform like Business Catalyst that will integrate with our practice management software, something like Workflow Max, which is actually a Xero-owned product that we provide to our accounting partners. Document management can all of a sudden be done at a much lower price point and a higher level of collaboration with something like Box, Smart Vault. I'm sure many of you are familiar with a lot of the options that are out there. And then, you can all of a sudden use Xero as that core accounting workbench that can handle the debits and credits for a whole variety of your clients. And as you stack all these things together, we not only can avoid the upfront cost, but also can lower our ongoing expenses quite considerably.
And I think it's important, Spencer, that we only pay for what we currently use. And as we go into, example, for tax season and we've got to bring more resources in, we can scale up and then at the end of tax season scale back down again. Whereas on the left-hand side, the old way, we had to plan what our server was going to look like in 3-4 years' time. And that becomes expensive. And so we very much shift this capital cost to an operational cost. And I just love that small firms can now take advantage of that and say, we need this module, we need that module, we don't need that big clunky module, so let's not even subscribe to it. But with the web-based platform, we can do that, and we're not restricted by the 4 walls in which we used to operate.
Indeed, indeed. And another key point here is that these tools can talk to each other. Really, pretty much all 5 of these more or less integrate with one another in one way, shape, or form. So you are able to put together a much more kind of coherent toolbox that you can use to serve your clients. And then indeed, you have the additional flexibility and scalability. And in fact, a lot of tools like us here at Xero, we offer unlimited users in every single one of our subscriptions, which is something that you see more and more from cloud tools. And again, that provides more of the flexibility for you. But then there's also the other side. In this older environment, we have to worry about this sort of stuff. And even if you have somebody that you have working as your, who's handling your IT, it does take resources of the firms away from the core competency, which is providing client service. So not only does it provide a little bit or a much cleaner workflow for the people who are using it on a daily basis, it provides a lower price point for the firm itself, and also sheds this burden, which oftentimes can have the firm having to deal with interruptions, When the server goes down, the firm also has to maintain either an internal or outsourced IT staff that in one way, shape, or form has to be managed. And if we can move towards the new model, we can trade kind of, the ultimate rat's nest nightmare scenario for something much simpler. This is our server room, simply a Wi-Fi connection. And we connect and run our entire business off of a whole host of cloud services. And internally, we don't have anyone that has to monitor these resources. We don't have anybody that has to worry about the hardware side of things. And also, we don't have to deal with the interruptions that are often caused when you're managing and carrying all of these things in-house.
Spencer, I had a good question come in. Where does, and let me know if you're answering this later, but where does all the data sit? Where are the physical servers which run Xero, which store our information? Where is all the data sitting?
Okay, so we host with Rackspace, and probably a lot of cloud vendors that you would come in contact with host at Rackspace as well. And what that does is that gives us our primary data center in Dallas, our secondary data center in Chicago, and that is backed up to tape as well. And additionally, what it does is because Rackspace, they're the hosting provider, they really are the experts in the security controls and everything. So that what it does is it puts us in a position where also we're able to offer the same SOC 2 coverage that Rackspace itself has gained certification for. So we have our US-based data, and on top of that, we also have the highest level, industry standard security protocols that we get by hosting our data with an industry leader like Rackspace.
Thank you. But I think it just goes back to the idea of Xero is not experts in hosting, so they are going to go with the best of breed in the industry, and they're focusing on delivering accounting software. And we've got to think about that in terms of our own firm. What are we best at, and what do we not do well at? What is holding us back from doing the things that we're good at? And more often than not, it's these fighting technical fires, fighting technology fires, running updates, sending QuickBooks files back and forth. These are all the things which, one a day, not that big of an issue, but if you add all of those up over the course of a day, over the course of a week, we can see some fairly significant time being spent in this redundancy mode. So let's look at how we can partner with people so we're able to really focus on what we do well. And that, as Spencer said, is that client service. It's working with our customers around the numbers. So back to you, Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. And a good, and as we'll talk about it more, the natural extension of that is that we want to allow the small business to focus on what they do best, and that's what we're working towards here. But just continuing the discussion of kind of the technical side of things, we have the hosted apps and we have software as a service. Hosted apps definitely can be a great sort of intermediate step because, again, we're taking the desktop software that perhaps we're used to and we're moving that into a cloud environment so that we get a similar experience. A couple benefits, though, you get with the SaaS environment is a typical cloud vendor like Xero will do 10, 12 plus releases per year. So we just released a whole slew of features this past Sunday. Also, the bug fixes, updates, enhancements, those are instantaneous. You don't have to download anything. It just happens in the background. Perhaps the biggest benefit, though, is that we're completely leaving the legacy environment when we move to a SaaS tool. And that often comes with a totally overhauled user experience and user interface, which gives the end user, your small business client, a tool that they can run their business through that has much more of the look and feel of the types of tools that they use in a consumer environment. So therefore, it's much more natural, and it most often gives the small business owner something that they're much more comfortable working with on a daily basis. And just a couple other things is those backups. We're always constantly backing things up through the data centers that I mentioned. And by working with somebody like Rackspace, who again, they are the security, the hosting experts, we can reduce the cost structure, benefit from the economies of scale, and deliver our solution at a very competitive price point.
And
the other thing that,
Spencer, can I just interject? I can't stress enough the data security and those backups. There's no data loss happening, and we see, for example, what happened with Hurricane Sandy, that such an event can be catastrophic to a business. Whereas when we're now in a web-based environment where all our information is, what we can do is we can talk with then talk with the client to say, you know what, you just concentrate on getting the house back up in order and making sure everyone's okay in the family and in the community, because all of your information is stored in a secure environment. So you just focus on getting everything back on track, and whenever you're ready to get that business back up and running, we'll be ready to go, because all of our information is stored securely and ready to go. So that's just, again, a lot of comments coming in from Hurricane Sandy and its impact, and you've got to be talking to your clients about how they are looking and storing their financial information.
Definitely, and we indeed, we have quite a few accounting partners in New Jersey, and most of them have a portion of their book of business on Xero, but do have quite a number of clients that are on kind of the standard desktop accounting system, and most of those clients, had some sort of corruption or compromising of their data during Hurricane Sandy. We also definitely experienced the same thing in our home country of New Zealand a few years back when the big earthquake hit Christchurch. It's unfortunate that these events happen, but oftentimes they do serve as a little bit of a reminder of how vulnerable your data can be when you kind of take that burden upon yourself in terms of the security, the storage, and the stability. And the other, side of the coin here, as we look at, the benefits of the SaaS type of environment, is the natural way that it lends itself to the mobile environment. We all know that we're kind of approaching this inflection point here where mobile users are going to surpass the number of desktop users. And really, a SaaS application is at its core built to be mobile. And so one of the things that we were able to very easily deliver was our mobile application, which now takes the same, much of the same experience that you're able to get through your browser on your laptop or desktop, and now we can have that information at our fingertips through our mobile phone. And again, this speaks to the point that I made about wanting to give the small business owner a tool that is much more like what they're used to using in their consumer life as opposed to their business owner life, because those are the natural, the intuitive, easy to learn tools that make it lend themselves to a high level of usage. And we want to lend Xero to a high level of usage. And our favorite quote that we ever hear when we get somebody who comes over from QuickBooks is they say, I used to log into QuickBooks because I had to. Now I log into Xero because I want to. And yes, that's great that they're using our software, but what's really great and really important is that now they're actually becoming more intimately involved with their financials. And that is kind of the hallmark of a modern practice engagement, is having that client who really wants to be inside the numbers and gain an understanding of where their business is headed. And for you, having the mobility and being able to have the visibility into your client's activities is now what's going to underpin your ability to deliver them the higher value services, the more consultative, more advisory type services that, again, will attract a higher price tag, but more importantly, they are what are going to retain the client for a longer period of time, and also most likely prompt that client to provide referrals down the road. And as we look, this is kind of our Xero toolbox. And what we're talking about is, again, being able to not only facilitate the move to this higher value engagement, but also giving you a coherent toolbox so that you can provide all the ancillary services that characterize this modern practice. And so what we have a ledger product, which is basically just an online write-up tool. And then that moves up into our cash book, which has our connections to the bank feeds. But like Ledger, it's only cash basis books. You can generate some invoices, but you can't really approve or accrue them. You have your full reporting. But really, the way this typically works is you have this compliance client, and they come in the door, and there's somebody that maybe gives you a box of documents and an incomplete QuickBooks file each year. We're going to go, instead of filling out that QuickBooks file, we'll go ahead, put them on the Xero ledger, write up their books, and be able to do our compliance work. As we move into the next year, we can present the client with a couple of options. They could become stay as a write-up client, but instead, you want to get them signed into their bank feeds, put them on the cash book, and have that constant stream of data coming into their set of books throughout the year. That's going to put you in a position where you can offer the client maybe updated monthly financials or quarterly financials. You could also avoid the kind of end of the year crunch time or tax season crunch time during which you have to gather all of this client's documentation and actually populate the data set within their accounting package. But you could also offer to move this client to a full sort of outsourced accounting services package where you essentially become their back office. And here in our business editions, you have the full AR and AP modules with all the approvals. You have the connection with our payroll integrations. You basically have a full alternative to something like QuickBooks. And that's all accessible from within Xero Partner Edition. And it gives you the ability to share reports across clients and really sort of streamline that whole book of business. And then at the same time, all of this is integrating with the Xero-owned practice management solution, Workflow Max, our work paper solution, Spotlight Work Papers. Our tax integrations are coming online here to make that side of the engagement a lot easier. As is the Bill.com and our Box.com and other cloud storage integrations. And then all the while, we provide a host of tools to our accounting partners to allow them to better market their services. And on top of all of that, we have our add-on system, or add-on ecosystem, which allows you to get very deep and narrow, especially if you have a particular vertical that you'd like to serve. If you're working with lots of retail clients, we can give you the integrated point of sale and e-commerce solution. If you are working with lots of consultants, we can help provide integrated CRM and project management software. Again, it's about giving you kind of a coherent toolbox that not only covers the type of engagement that you're going to have with the client, being it simply a compliance engagement, or maybe a full outsourced back office engagement where you're serving as more of a virtual CFO. Whatever it is, we can line up the resources to suit that client and, again, give you the ability to work on a daily basis and be freed from the time loss and the pains associated with multiple versions, different editions, all the problems that can arise as you're trying to collaborate around legacy software. And all this, it leads towards efficiency. The first thing, again, that we're in, as I brought up those 3 key points, we want to get rid of the time that you lose doing manual bank recs, messing around with file types and versions, even driving to a client to get into their file. These are all things that we can get off your plate so that then you can reinvest that time into providing higher value services.
And also, Spencer, data entry is probably underestimated in terms of we think it's a necessary evil, but with technology in the bank feeds, which I hope you'll show us a little bit later, we don't have to do data entry. We don't have to repetitively enter the same transactions, because the new web-based applications, they're, I won't say much more intelligent, but they recognize rules and they work according to rules that are set up. But then they start to recognize transactions, and there's no need for data entry, which is often where a lot of the mistakes are made. And that seems to be a huge frustration for folks as well.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, I'm going to take us into the application right after this slide here. But what we have is we have what we call the business editions. And again, this is what you're going to use as you're really providing that full array of services to the clients. And we have what we call the partner editions, which is a great way to get a client into the system. And what's really nice is you can take that compliance client, write up their books, and then as soon as they're ready to say, you know what, I want to start getting more services from you, you can seamlessly upgrade them into one of these business editions, and all the data will move seamlessly into the newer edition. So what I'm going to do right now is just take us into a quick jump into the software so we can see a couple of things that I'm going to illustrate in the rest of my slides. And just so you know, we're going to work at the top end of the spectrum. So we're going to have everything available to us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the kind of principal workflow that a small business owner is going to go through. Now, it's worth noting, this could be shared between the small business owner and the accounting partner. It depends. One thing that's really important here is the flexibility. You know, we want to make it flexible and easy for you to kind of find the right way for you to work with your client. As you can see, this is the My Green Xero, also known as Xero Partner Edition screen. As I mentioned, you know, we have all of our different clients, the ones that are on ledgers, cash books, the business editions, they're all right here. I can jump into their organizations at any time. Any of them that have unreconciled lines, I can see a note there. And also I can see when the organization was last logged into and by whom. I can, from this screen, sign up new clients. I have the ability to map my staff to different organizations, different clients. The staff can be in some, all, none of these organizations. They can manage the users, so they can invite people in and out. As I mentioned, everything has unlimited users, so you can delegate things quite a bit. Also, the payroll access, you can put somebody in charge of the payroll data that's going to flow in from one of our integrated payroll services. And then lastly, providing support is a pretty cool tool here. I mentioned the notion of collaboration, and there's a couple different ways in which the application itself helps foster that. One of the first things is this Ask My Accountant feature. So in the previous screen, that column that said provide support, that is the column in which you assign a particular staff member to provide support to a particular client. And so what this means is you take a staff accountant, you select that provide support for a group of clients, and whenever the client is working in Xero and they hit the help drop-down, when they hit this Ask My Accountant link, that'll cause them to send an email right to the staff member who's providing them with support. It's a great way to help ensure that the client doesn't do a whole bunch of stuff that might result in a massive cleanup task at year end. Also, we can do some branding for our reports. It's simple, but this is a good kind of an important part of what we do within the Xero partner community. Because as we see, after I go through this kind of standard workflow, that workflow is going to be what gets us great data so that all of a sudden our reports will now have value. And so we're going to, just by the very nature, because we're using Xero and because the system is able to keep our data so much more up to date, we're going to go into reports a lot more. We're going to find ourselves wanting to work with those, and that's going to be the natural sort of move into a higher value and a higher level of engagement with the client. So this screen right here was created because we did a bunch of research and got a bunch of input from really two different groups, the accounting community and the small business community. The small business community said, you know, I want to be able to log into my system and see how much cash and credit is in my business, you know, what sort of invoices are outstanding, and what bills I have to pay. And so we set about creating that interface for them. Now the accounting community on the other side, they said, well, you know, it's like we know what our clients do in the morning. Our clients wake up, they get a cup of coffee, they, you know, they basically start looking in their online banking, looking at who owes them money. They see, you know, how much money is in their online banking, they pay some bills, and then they move on to collections. But as we all know, looking at your online banking and simply using that as your, you know, your source of truth, that is not the best practice. That gives us a rather incomplete view of our business. So with that in mind, we created our bank feeds. And the bank feeds allow you to sign into your bank through Xero when you set up the application. And then going forward, the bank feed will send the recently posted transactions into Xero each day. So imagine your online banking, you know, updates your posted transactions maybe 3 o'clock in the morning every day. That data will be sent into Xero. And we can get all the bank accounts and all the credit cards in here and have the small business owner get away from using online banking to make it as a basis for decision making. We want them to use the system here because everything is in one place and it's giving us a holistic view. But I also mentioned that the small business owners often, you know, they're sitting there with a cup of coffee, looking at what their balances are, and also looking at who's going to pay them. And kind of those two concerns are really what weigh on their mind. And as we can see here, in the case of this small business, they have a pretty big invoice out, at least based on what I see from the rest of their invoicing history. So I imagine that this small business owner is going to be pretty preoccupied with the payment status here. So as they jump into their bank screen, what we're going to have them do is, by using our easy interface here, they're going to perform a daily bank rec. And pretty much this is just a matching exercise. So this is a very easy interface for the small business owner to use to simply, to not just accept the data that's coming in from the bank feeds, but they're actually going to do double entry accounting just by hitting this OK button. So what we see here is these bank lines have come in, and the first one that's come is $6,100+. And the system is recognizing that that matches the outstanding invoice that I just drew your attention to. So when I hit OK here, that's going to, first off, update the balance. But when I go back over to sales here and hit refresh, we'll see that that invoice is now closed. So not only is that a way for your client to know what the information or the payments that have come in and also get a real picture of what their updated balance is, but it's also your solution to the end-of-year issues that might come up around undeposited funds, unclosed invoices. We're running everything through the bank feed, and it really creates a rather clean workflow because the bank feed pretty much guarantees that stuff has happened, and the system takes care of matching it to the items within Xero. And we can see over here, we've done it on the spend side. We cut a check, it's posted, and the system's making the match for us. Down here, we see another collaborative tool that we have where if the client, you know, maybe the client receives a deposit or a partial payment, and they're just not sure how to process the payment. they can leave a comment for you, and that will actually show up over here next to their bank lines. And as they work through this, you can see that we also have instances where the system remembers the way that we coded previous transactions. So last month's monthly banking fee got coded this way, and the system's recommending that we do it again. We can also leverage the bank rules to really speed up a lot of this. So if you have a client that's getting up and running on Xero and you find that they're making tons of payments to Verizon, they buy lots of gas, they have some pretty regular transaction activity, we can set up bank rules where we set up some conditions, provide direction in terms of what contact to associate it with. We can even go down into line item detail, and the system will then apply a description, an account code, a tax rate, and even a cost center based on what we've indicated. And then we can automate the way the reference is set and also tell the system to target a particular bank account. Now this is the 7-Eleven rule. We could make this something like a gas rule where the payee contains something like Chevron, and maybe also contains Shell, and the amount is greater than or equal to $50. I want to say it's going to do any of these conditions. So we could go ahead and set up a much broader bank rule and use this to capture a certain type of expense. And maybe I would change this. Do I have a fuel? No. However you want to use it. It's a rather malleable tool. And again, what we want to do is speed up this bank rec process. Also, to help speed that up, there's this cache coding tool. This is also good when you get the client set up, where we can grab a bunch of transactions and bulk code. Again, all this, we're just trying to get through the process of reconciling the bank account so that the underlying data is up to date. As we do that, the next thing becomes managing AR and AP, or as we recently renamed them, sales and purchases. So in here, we have a really easy way. We could do repeating invoices. This is a great way to help the client get the data into the system. So again, we're getting that data entry burden off our plate. But I'll just go ahead and issue a standard invoice. And what we can see here is it's a pretty simple screen that we have available to us. And I'll just get this generated. We can see here that we have some different branding that we can do with our invoices. So you can set up different invoice templates for different clients. Back to the point that I made about us being able to grab a service that's out there in the web and make it a coherent part of the Xero experience. This is it. This is xe.com. This is what you get with our large plan. And now I can really easily, sell some golf balls to my client in Australia, and let's sell a lot of them. And here I can go ahead and move this through the approval process, which I'm going to do right now. And what we'll see is that the system starts to automatically calculate the unrealized and realized currency gains. So again, let's get that trouble that we often have dealing with the FX stuff off our plates so we can do better things for our clients. Over on purchases, you've got the same sort of thing where, let's imagine that we'd worked over in our AR, for example, and we've seen that a bunch of stuff is overdue. I make a call to a client, find out that that's not going to be here till the end of the month, and maybe I, call on all the rest of these and get updated payment expectations and then realize, my goodness, I'm going to have a cash flow shortage and I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my vendors. One of the things that you could maybe do, get in touch with your vendors, see if you can kick out a payment a little bit so that then you can handle the U.S. Treasury, cut a check for them, and get that obligation fulfilled. What this workflow is all aiming towards is getting the data in terms of the banking activity and the AR and the AP, and also expense claims, which are down here. You use that with our mobile application. It gives you the ability to take a snapshot of a receipt and get it in the system. We're all working through this so that we can spend our time not doing the data entry, but instead working on some of these reports. And you can do things as simple as, maybe I want to do a layout option, maybe I just want to group some accounts. And I could work, add this, and then maybe I want to I'll save this, make it useful for everybody so that they don't have to redo the layout each time. And what I'm doing here is now I just made a new balance sheet that I can use in any organization that I have in this screen. And what that does is that moves us to where now we can start to save some time on the reporting side of things, and also save some time when it comes to developing those monthly or quarterly financials like this management report that we're going to go ahead and issue to the client as part of the value-added service that our modern practice delivers. And what we can see here from this management report, this is a very easy way for you to quickly generate a 6-page document that is very professional looking, provides a nice overview of your client's business, and you can get into Xero and do all sorts of footnoting and adding summaries and all sorts of customization to this document, so that just with a couple clicks of a button, we can go ahead and get that client a very professional, holistic view of their business. And this is really, as we move from talking less about bank rec and more about the information that's in a document like this, that's the hallmark of a modern practice.
Yeah, Spencer, I haven't met an accounting firm that doesn't want to do this for their clients. And I think that's typical of the accounting profession, wanting to do more for their business clients, wanting to help them. The biggest stumbling block has been getting the data, getting timely data into the system, and then spitting out reports. And we think about the old way of doing things, of using source documents and work papers, etc., and key bashing, and all of that adding up. Whereas if we change the focus and have the information coming directly from the bank, that just limits the amount of data entry, limits the amount of mistakes, and allows us to really go into this next level, because we have up-to-date information. As long as the line items are reconciled, we have up-to-date information. Anyone can be looking at this one screen at any one time, or not this screen, but that front dashboard. Anyone can be looking at any one time. So I think it's an interesting aspect that all accountants want to do this, but the biggest stumbling block has been the time to actually get up-to-date information. Gary asks, Spencer, how easy is it to prepare a GAAP financial statement?
So right now we just released our GAAP reporting. So we have the GAAP balance sheet and income statements in here. If you look right here, out of the box, it's a little dinky, but and I don't think I saved it, but basically you just need to do a tiny little bit of setup with your layout options right here. Here we go. So I did that setup beforehand. And now that's what's going to show up to all the users. So really, you need to do a little bit of setup on the income sheet and the balance sheet, or the income statement, and then the balance sheet is ready to go.
Great. So any other questions, folks? Make sure you plug those in, given that we're coming to 11:50. So last couple of minutes here, Spencer. What are some other things you wanted to show us?
Yeah, really, I think also, we have the year-end activities coming up, and I made a reference to the fact that we want to work with other services that are out there in the web. So our 1099 report, this is brand new, and this is how you can set up some rules. So you can see that the way the rules work is you can either make it such that whenever you pay out of a certain account and into a certain account, we're going to go ahead and assign that type of activity to a certain box. We can also set up the contact groups within Xero, where if I set up a group here that is my contractors, I can set up this group, have my contractors within the system, and then when I go to issue my 1099s, we'll see that I can just set up a rule for my contractors where, whenever I'm making a payment to a contractor, the system will will keep track of that, and then at the end of the year, the system will give me a report, shows me everybody I need to issue a 1099 to, and then you can e-file it straight from the application.
And the best thing, Spencer, is we didn't have to run around each machine.
That I think
Sorry, we don't have to run around each machine and download the update. It's whenever we log back in to the system, it's always up to date. So I think that's one of the benefits of this web-based platform as well.
Mm-hmm. And you can see you get, we pull the application offline for an hour or so on a Sunday, and then you get a notification within the application. You can see here we added some new email templates, payment terms, outstanding statements, remittance advice, new dashboards for sales and purchases, the 1099s, the gap stuff, and then a whole bunch of administrative tools that we also put in there as well.
Spencer, question that came in. What is the conversion process from a client on QuickBooks?
Yeah, so this comes up a lot. What I would say is the ideal conversion is, we can work with you and bring the historical data over. Yet what we see as time goes on is that our partners who have actually spent the time trying to get that historical data into the system, they're realizing that there's not a great return on the investment of time, because they're bringing over all the transactions from all the Circle K's and gas stations and little transactions that a client has made. So what I like to do is we'll bring it over, we'll set a conversion date, we'll get the client up and running as of that conversion date, and then what we could do is we could bring in the monthly balances going backwards so that you have all of the reporting that you need for month-over-month, year-over-year reporting. Really, the act of getting up and going is simple. It's, get trial balances, get a chart of account, and get the open AR and AP. We'll import all those into the system, and the client can start running. One of the nice things about Xero is we can concentrate first and foremost on just getting the business up and running on the platform, getting them comfortable with running their daily operations through it, and then as they get up and going, we can then start adding that historical data in the background. So I think it's a two-part process. First, get the client live, get them in the system, get them comfortable generating invoices, tracking their expenses, things like that, and then determine how much detail you want out of that historical information, and we'll provide a process that makes it pretty easy. I've taken a QuickBooks file that's 5 years old, and by doing some work in Excel, I've been able to get the historical data over in about an hour. And that was a super detailed conversion with years of transaction-level historical information.
Okay, great. Spencer, anything else you wanted to share with us in the last couple of minutes?
No, just I want to bring just to your attention. So we showed kind of how we can, automate a little bit of the, the data entry and also the production of those reports. And that's what I think I kind of want to leave you with here is, think about what you're doing with a typical compliance client and all the time that's spent simply trying to get your hands on that data and what the alternative is working in the cloud environment. Now, also think about the reporting side of that. Not only do you have all the individual data entry to do, now we have all the reports, and it's go into a QuickBooks file, generate a report, customize, generate a report, go into another QuickBooks file, customize, generate a report. You do that ad nauseum. Whereas with Xero, all of a sudden, we can create those report templates that I was showing. And now you create that in one of your retail clients, and you have that template available for all of the rest of the retail clients. So all of a sudden now, not only is the data entry getting slimmed down, but also the production of the reports as well. And if we look, I'm going to skip through a couple things here, but the desktop, you look at the amount of time you do on the annual reporting and the quarterly reporting, and how much of this time is spent simply getting data. Trim those two components of that task down, and all of a sudden we've basically taken a third of the time out of the engagement. What that has the effect of doing is boosting that average hourly rate and that annual revenue capacity. So again, it's not just about providing the higher value service just because you want to. It's something that's more profitable, it's more beneficial, and it's going to make the client's business more profitable. And I think just the real important idea is, efficiency, that's what creates more time. And you can either fill the void with more clients and more compliance, or you can go for the modern practice and deliver more value for the existing clients. And that is where you become that virtual CFO. You provide, things like the reporting that we were showing, and you really can move into, the things like the value-based pricing, which is the next extension. But most importantly, get away from purely billing your time, become more collaborative, become efficient, and generate the profits that moving to the cloud can bring you. So that's all that I have for us. For those of you that are more interested in getting some more information on Xero, go ahead and find us on xero.com/partners, or feel free to send me an email, and I'm more than happy to provide any additional resources.
Spencer, thank you very much. I like that last slide or two where it said what is whether it's the firm of the future or the modern practice, and it is much more collaborative, but we've got to look at how we become much more efficient. And when we do that and really leverage technology properly, it frees up a ton of time. And also I think some of the responses from some of the clients that have been using Xero is it's much more intuitive. It's much easier to understand. So I am going to take back the presenter, if that's okay.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to show my screen just very quickly, folks. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of where the resources are. So degraded, what's my password? Log in there. That'll take us to iShade, and I will just wait for that to come up. Now, when you do that, you'll come into the 2020 Group USA section, and I'm just waiting for it to load on your pages there. And I'm going to click on this tax season or bootcamp web series. If you're not a member of this group, I have sent the invitations, etc. You'll just see a join this group up in this right-hand corner here. So just click on that, and then I'll approve you. But for example, to get the slides from today's section, we go to this resource button down the bottom here, and we've got a modern practice. So there we have the slides from today's presentation. So that's how we would get to them, and we'll see it there. I'll just come back to Tax Season Bootcamp. If any of you people need CPE that aren't registered via GoToMeeting, this is the survey link that they need. And I had set up GoToMeeting to send a survey link following the webinar, but I'm not sure if that's working. But there's the link there. And then also the webinar recordings that we do have available online, they're also there as well. Folks, check out Xero, check out Sage has a product which is similar to a web-based platform. QuickBooksOnline.com has come a long way since their first foray into this world. But Xero, I think, has really done it differently in that they didn't have this legacy software that they had to try and replicate. And I think that's a huge difference between the two products. When we talk about cloud, we talk about efficiency and leveraging technology. And I think once we take that step, the efficiency gains will be dramatic. And whether that's, as Spencer said, we do more compliance and more billable time, whether we add more services to our current client base, or if we just get out of the office a couple of hours earlier on average each week, then that's going to be much more beneficial. But we see a shift when we're just collecting the data and having to enter that into QuickBooks or having this destructive relationship with our clients because they're making a quick mess of everything. We see the relationship change dramatically because now we're all looking at that one file, we're asking questions, we're going back and forth, we can keep tabs on whether or not people are up to date with their books, all from that one screen, and it just changes the dynamics of the relationship. And I think once you get that first line onto it, you'll see how the relationship changes. So please do check it out. Folks, I will get CPE caught up today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. Look forward to seeing you online tomorrow for how to charge, bill, and collect effectively this tax season. That's tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Pacific. But Spencer, thank you for your time. And ladies and gentlemen, have a great afternoon and look forward to seeing you online tomorrow.